Hello, everyone. My name is Donna Conwell.
And I'm Kelly Sicat, and we're your hosts of Scratch Space.
Scratch Space is a virtual forum hosted by the Lucas Artist Residency program at Montalvo Art Center, which is located in Saratoga, California, on the ancestral lands of the Ohlone people. With Scratch Space, we are bringing together visual artists, scholars, composers, activists, writers, and others to explore what kinds of radical imaginaries can unfold in this moment of pandemic, racial reckoning, economic uncertainty, civil unrest, and environmental crisis.
We're interested in how we think about what is possible, how we can use our imaginations to build a better present and future, and how we can retool and create better, more equitable models for living and working together. So Donna, tell us about our guest today.
Well, I'm truly delighted to introduce our guest this week. Today, we are joined by interdisciplinary artist, María Magdalena Campos-Pons. Magda was born in the province of Matanzas, Cuba, and is a descendant of Nigerians who have been brought to the island as enslaved people in the 19th century. She was a pioneer of the new Cuban art movement that opposed communist repression in Cuba in the late 1980s. She immigrated to the US in 1991, and today she is the Cornelius Vanderbilt Endowed Chair and Professor of Fine Arts at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Texas. Magda's work combines and crosses very diverse artistic practices. She works in photography, painting, sculpture, film, video, and performance. Many of her works are autobiographical and investigate themes of history, memory, gender, religion, and how these inform identity. She's had solo exhibitions at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, the Indianapolis Museum of Art, the Peabody Essex Museum, and the National Gallery of Canada, among many other distinguished institutions. She's presented over 30 solo performances commissioned by institutions including the Guggenheim, the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery, and others. And she's also participated in many international biennials, and her works are in over 30 museum collections. Last month, the Perez Art Museum in Miami awarded Magda its prestigious annual Perez Prize, so congratulations, Magda. And today we're going to be talking with Magda about her latest work and projects, and we're also going to be sharing and discussing When We Gather, her multifaceted collaborative undertaking and 5-minute film that premiered in early 2021 and celebrates the role of women in ushering in sweeping political change and progress across the United States.
I'm super excited for this conversation. And the only thing I wish is that we were all together in person with Magda. You'll find links to Magda's bio and her awards and other news in the chat we'll be posting throughout the conversation. I want to give a shout out to Nathan Zanon, who is our producer behind the scenes, and to Anne, who will be providing live captioning for today's event. To access the live captioning, please press the button that says CC on the bottom of your screen. I'm going to disappear now, and I'm going to leave Donna and Magda to conversation for about 40 minutes or so, at which point I will come back, or we're going to have a screening and then I'll return, and I will be sharing questions from our audience. So please post questions either in the Q&A or chat or the live Facebook feed, and we'll be pulling those for Magda. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Magda.
Hello, Donna.
Hello, Magda, welcome. We're so delighted to have you join us today. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us.
It is my pleasure, and thank you both of you and Kelly for this introduction, and thank you to invite me to Scratch Space. Very happy to be here.
That's wonderful. So today, we're going to be talking about what you've been working on this past year and what this sort of transformational moment of the international health crisis and racial reckoning has meant to you. I'd love to briefly your time with us in residency in 2018 and talk a little bit about the amazing work that emerged out of that time. Such a treat to look at that with you.
where I am thinking and hearing what Kelly said about the only sad thing is that we cannot be together. Oh
Right.
I want to say to anybody at listening or the people that may see this conversation later, that one of the most delightful and productive and wonderful time of my experience in residencies took place at Montalvo. I mean, it is an absolutely sanctuary for giving the artists time to think, time to make, and time to be in harmony with nature and the universe. And I have such a indelible memories of the time there, not only my own time with nature and my own time with myself, but the kind of collegiality and the incredible space of collaboration and engagement that Montalvo offers. So to any artist listening or any individual listen, please consider this residence. And I think that Montalvo kind of left individuals again there have a relation for the rest of their life. So I know that I'm going to come back invited or only.
Oh, yes. We're looking forward to you coming.
So in the work that I produced there, part of the work that I produced there, oh my God.
Yeah, I wanted to show, can I show this little video of you in the studio and you tell us what you're doing?
Oh my God. I was doing what I call my art in the kitchen. So I am trying here to preserve with a compound of polymers and acrylic medium this devil's the bells
Devil's Bell.
Devil's bell.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all kind of experiments. Oh my God, what a rich moment and how beautiful. And I was trying, of course, as I try most of the time that I can, to be seen that are healthy, that doesn't create pollution for nature, or doesn't create more trouble for already difficult imprint in the planet. So all this is a water-based material. And I was trying, oh my God, how gorgeous all those flowers are. I feel so bad. I want to be back there. So some of these bells, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, the solutions. And so wonderful. Look at those skin tone and those soft, delicious flowers. So I was trying to preserve them, and I managed. What happened that they kept the pigmentation of the flower for a particular period of time, and then they start to become more like a dry and sepia. So but they maintain, they are in the work, and they are, as they are organic material, you have a preservation process here that would stay forever. No, they would become, they would stay forever. Now I know that if I come back to Montalvo, I am coming to figure out other ways to maintain them too, because I was thinking the wax is another possibility. You know that I saw my mountain lion over there. She's talking to me. But I have so many beautiful. So here they are, and here this is like this is already weeks later, but this is the color that stay in them. So I really let them to becoming this paper, this material. Oh, how wonderful that is space. How amazing. So that piece is now at Gallery Wendy Norris, and these are the devil bells. This piece is called, when it's in this complexion, devil bells, angels, trumpets. And angel trumpets, devil bells is the order of the, and there are a lot of little different scenes here. So the piece is not only in the top side of the image. I don't know if I could show that in the left, is this other bouquet of all these flowers, and there is a remembrance piece too. I finished the piece, and it's inscribed in the piece. When I was at Montalvo, my dear friend Kaniska Raya passed away, and I kind of marked his passing in many part of the pieces that I was doing, and it is only all fragments, all these scenes in the two panels in the bottom right left. It's all about the materials that I work with, the imprint and the mark and the kind of what I call the crumbs of life. Let life organize itself and compose itself within the pictorial plane in this different and kind of a magic. So you have a duct tape, but also you have painted, the painting of the duct tape and brown tape, and then the brown tape painted, exquisitely painted, as finished as it is the same material. And all this conversation and all this inquiry about what is surface, what is representation, what we capture, what escape us, how do we work with the passing of time and the ephemerality of life and the ephemerality of beauty. Because as we saw these flowers, the bells, they are this, glorious skin, flesh material in full of oxygen and energy. And then when they move in time, they are this more leather kind of material. Year has passing already, time have so as a metaphor for life. So and it's good to see that piece. I don't back to see my work a lot. So when I see this piece now, the soul of the lady dropping, dropping from the sky or dropping in a void or in the pictorial plane, I've imprinted with this red soil. And it's a metaphor for something that I always have said, and I say that I may say until my last breath, that is, I still carry in the sole of my feet the red soil of La Vega, of Manguito, of Matanzas. Which is, and one of the things that made me think about that is exactly the night that I arrived to Montalvo, and I was giving a tour around 11 p.m. to midnight of the garden. I was brought into this flowering of the devil's bells, and I was thinking, oh my God, the last time that I saw them was in my hometown in La Vega, when I was a girl. Maybe 12 years old or 11 years old, and suddenly arrived in California and found this lusciousness of this plant was about, do I always are at home wherever I go? Do I always landing in a place in which made me circle back one way or another to this red soil? So Montalvo immediately got like a space in my heart and a place that I feel incredible. And so this piece is a little bit of testimony of all those juxtaposition. And as I see the piece, I think in one naked, because that's what I feel more free in the world and existence. It's something about the body dressed by itself in a way. The body, I dress the body in other scenes, but I think that is something very simple about this growing this kind of a root of a stem crossing from limbs to limb and becoming nature and becoming body and all of that. So
I love that too, the sort of transformation of the body into nature or vice versa, and that kind of alchemy and transformation is very much part of your work, isn't it? It's kind of
I love that, and I am excited about that. And so this work is not finished yet. I am still working in a project at the studio here, and I think that I will keep working because I took so much note. I have I don't know, maybe like a couple thousand pictures from Montalvo. I mean, all these deers that came every afternoon, every sunset next to my window. I don't know how many hundred, the little lagartijas in the, I mean, I have so many images. And then, seeing the mountain lion in there and my friends there, the other artists that were there. And so I am doing this big panel that is not finished yet. Oh, this is,
I'm sorry, Magda, I didn't mean to interrupt you with telling us about your big panel. I was just also remembering, you were out and about, you were gathering eucalyptus skin, you were making a giant rubbing from a eucalyptus stump. And what an amazing thing to see this now as a work, that the work that came out of that.
I cannot. I. Do you remember me rubbing those
Yes.
trunks in the
Yeah, I do.
I was lucky that no mountain lion come to visit me when I was in, but it's interesting because I always had been fascinated by the landscape from the bird view, you know, from flying to land and crossing so many places, and that kind of view from above. And I have been to, I was overwhelmed by all these incredible fires that had taken place in the American West and in the California region for this year. So at some point when I came to the studio back here and I start putting all this piece in front of me, they start changing from being the exact print of those trees that had been cut by age or by labor, but I wanted it to be a metaphor about the need or the desire and the prayer for renewal and rebirth out of those decimated landscape. So I was trying to, so when you see this piece now, this tiny little trees become almost the view from very far distance of a proposition of a landscape. So I was very, you know, in the process of working, always one gets surprised for what happened to the work. And I always thinking to that the prints, you know, have been doing this fascination with the fingerprints and the footprints and our own writing, our own marking of time, you know, what signal of the body and the landscape. So these particular pieces allowed for that juxtaposition about almost the fingerprint of the footprint of nature.
Yeah, I definitely felt that when I saw them, that they look like fingerprints. Just so our viewers understand what they're looking at. So the black is the ink rubbing of the top of the stump of the eucalyptus tree, and then the green, they're kind of like marks that look like a forest embedded inside of the landscape, the rubbing of the eucalyptus tree. Is that correct, Magda?
That's correct. And it's almost like if new and there is a view. So what you see now, what you see in here is the view of the exhibition. This body of work was actually going to go to a fair in the Emirates, the Dubai Art Fair, and the art fair was going to take place March 23, 24, 25, and it was the first time that I was invited for a booth for the Dubai Art Fair because it's invitational only. So we were so excited. The work already was shipped to Europe in his way to the Emirates, and then the pandemic came. So we wanted to be sure, and the gallery in Milan wanted to be sure that the work was seen and the work was out. So they exhibited in Milan in pandemic time. I think that a bit when it was the first opportunity to come out. So here you have some of the image together, and I am still chasing the trunks that, you know, of the trees. I am doing this here too, and I tell you later a little bit about that. So this is me trying to understand and make sense of the skin of the eucalyptus, who is the skin of the eucalyptus are an absolutely fist of nature and an absolutely painterly fish. I mean, I thinking about the kind of understanding of color and transitions and textures and the nuances and the delicacy of those all together. I was in a resting relation with all of that. So what you see it in this triptych, in the center is a pine vine that
Banya.
from the yes in the same landscape. And when I saw it in the ground, the first thing that I was thinking was, oh my God, this looked like a human spine, no? So I was and I always this present of appearance of body notation and body implication in nature. Now I am interested in that moment, and I in that moment, and I was working from something that I started in 1990 that I call because the human body is a tree. So this idea that I feel the relation between both the human bodies to a tree is through, you know, is standing and resting and all those kind of things. So I was very engaged with this idea. So I called this piece a mother tree rooted by the spine, and using the same structure and strategy of narration that I use in my work on paper. That is, the story is almost cinematographic. Image 1 from image 2 to image 3, and together they engage themselves in this kind of dance. And honestly, I need to say to you guys, when I was doing this work, I was thinking, if I move this image horizontal, I'm going to have an ocean. I'm going to have another, you know. So the trees, I know, and I am fascinated with the eucalyptus surface, because it says it's one of the more where all nature have these incredible scenes, but eucalyptus, there's something about the dimension of the tree, and also the kind of this dance of this corn, this dreadlocks that it peel and they drag from the top of the tree, which I need to collect more of them because I know
you had a lot in your studio. To come back for more.
I don't know how many people have gone to Montalvo and chip away eucalyptus bark. I am sure that I am not the only one. They are way too beautiful not to have many followers. Yeah. But I am interesting too in the relationship that is created. So eventually, when the largest piece is finished, which I hope that we finish this summer, I sharing that with you guys. But I kind of love this this spine, rooted by the spine, and this invitation to a stillness and to hold the position, hold the verticality, and I am playing with this idea of verticality, one image to another in the piece.
It's amazing. It's just incredible. I'm so excited to see this. It also reminds me of some words that I think I read they were attributed to you somewhere, where you said a bird is a migrant and a messenger, and a tree is an anchor and an ancestor.
Yes, and it's really true. And it's really true. And I always, I mean, when I say rooted by the spine, because I think the tree is connected, the tree is connected in a way to the ground that is really profound, and that allowed us to, you know, continue, but also stay. There's something very beautiful knowing that the dimension of the tree in the ground is even much larger than anything that we see in the surface. So the depth of the root and the implication of how profound that connection is something very beautiful and metaphorically charged and important for me. And I need to say that I was fascinated with the kind of painterly quality of the surface of the trees, no? In this particular, because I was putting attention to that landscape. The very first time that I was in California, my first observation about the trees was very different than Main tree, no? I used to go to the Northeast Maine for time in nature, and I always think that the trees in Maine, in the majority, are crispy. They are like, and there's something in nature in the American West in which the area that I have been, they drop, they kind of relax, they can't let a weight of gravity bring something down, and that is very visible in the eucalyptus and all this bark, you know, these incredible tubes of beauty, you know, coming, dropping, trying to anchor themselves. There is a tree in the landscape of Cuba that is very similar, and it's called the highway, and it have like a little line, like a little root, and wherever that root touch ground, it anchor and start building a new trunk. So they keep walking and expanding and opening and creating community and a space for the community to be anchored. And I think that is something really magnificent about that kind of gesture in nature. And I try to the modest capacity of my tools and my observations to grasp that and bring it in later, you know, notations.
Yeah, you've done it beautifully, really. Wow, how special, how wonderful to see that come to fruition from your time in the studio. That's really exciting to see. So I'd love if we could just move on now and talk a little bit about, you know, take us up to the present moment and this past year and a half and what this time has meant for you. And I'd love it if you wouldn't mind to talk a little about your work with the Engine for Art and Democracy and Justice, because that just received a 2021 Award for Excellence from the Association of Art Museum Curators at the Art Curators Conference. So congratulations on that. And you launched the program in 2018, but in 2020, I understand you added the word engine. And so I'm just wondering if you can tell us about this project and the relevance it took on in this past year with the COVID crisis and national, international racial reckoning that followed on from the murder of George Floyd.
Well, Donna, thank you for asking about the EADJ. I may say that for everyone, 2020 was a shock. No, this is no doubt about it. I remember coming from abroad, from New Year, and then doing like a month of very, very active scenes and flying from New York to Nashville, February 27, and suddenly lock. I left New York running because it was already problems in New York. I was doing a presentation at MoMA the night before the 27th, and I needed to leave the city running, literally, urgently, because what was happening. There is something about this kind of condition that create unexpected and unavoidable sense of wandering and almost, I would say, silent despair. It's not that anybody is saying I am in despair, what I'm going to do, but it's the shock. It's almost like what I learned in some classes about meditation. When you are shocked by things in life, whatever happened, your body do this fight or flight. And in some way, this situation create that kind of moment of uncertainty that in the level, I would say, psychologically create this, now what? What is next? And we don't know what is next. And my first reaction was start, as I always do, make sketches and write and make notes and start thinking in the not knowing, just, we are locked, we are at home, we cannot live. The school say, get out of the building in whatever hour they give us to left, literally. And those things are, we are not prepared for that. We had not necessarily go through that, and then get a sense of what was going on, and hearing from scientists and the speculation from science, the speculation from society, the speculation from politics, and trying to hold yourself together. So teaching was a big issue. What do you do in a studio art practice when you need to change all your teaching of a studio practice into a realm of the cloud, and in a way that there is no proximity for execution, or proximity for criticality, or for proximity for observation? So the Engine for Art, Democracy, and the Art, Democracy, and Justice project was launched in January of 2018, already as a trans-institutional partnership between Vanderbilt, Fritz Museum, Fisk University, and Million of Conversations. So always the idea was a project that created a space for conversation, collaborations in the ground, and in whatever format we're going to decide, papers, etc., with all this institution in the city. So was how to reach different and ways of development and ways of production through this idea of conversation between disciplines and conversation between interests and conversations about art production in the city and for that matter in the world. So for the first edition of the project, we did a 3 days set of engagement in the ground, and we invited the curator of Documenta, Adam Chinsky, the critic from the New York Times, Holland Cotter, and the Nigerian American artist Olu Ogibe. So my intention always was, and even within the arts, to create this juxtaposition of roles, expertise, production, and all this layer that could bring us together to think what is the role and how these three things are democracy and justice interferes with each other, or work with each other, and intermingle and with each other. I have used in 2004 when I founded the gallery in Brookline, Massachusetts, Gallery Artist Studio Project, the term the engine to really talk about the group of people who were behind the making of that project. And GASP, as well as EADJ, was an idea of a contesting existing system and contesting existing structure and proposing another possibility. So in GASP, the idea was if the artist position itself as initiator, as a curator, as administrator, as a liaison with the city, with the community, what kind of project, what kind of thing we could have. So that was this idea of the machinery, the engagement, the entanglement that allow all those different scenes come together in a way that is oily, no? And this is what I use the industrial period referring, that they work without entrapment, without clogging, no? The engine, and you want to keep it clean and efficient. So when 2020 arrived and we are here in the middle of this paralyzing moment, I am thinking, well, we need to go online. How to bring the EADJ online? And at that moment already, I have a list of individuals that I want to involve with the project. So I invited Marina Fokides, a curator of Documenta and the founder and editor of the magazine South as a State of Mind, who was one of the publications that Documenta 14 used for the theoretical aspect and critical analysis of the art of the period, to come to Nashville, the same way that I did with the others invitees before. Come to Nashville for a week, and we're going to introduce you to the city, to the history, to the institution that are partners, Frist, Billion of Conversation, and let's think about how do we go. In that brainstorming literary, the idea was we need to go online because it's the only way that we would be effective. But if we're going online, then how do we make this something that really reach out the population and the audience that we are interested with? So the idea was to literally create a webinar that is parallel to a seminar. So the engine for art, democracy, and justice is a class. It's a class, it's a seminar at Vanderbilt that also, when Adam was here, when Olu was here, when Holland Cotter was here, they visited, all of them visited the class and met with a student and talked with the students, as well. All of them visited every cultural institution or relevance in the city and other. So we are really, my idea from the beginning was really the immersion, what I say in the artist, in the founder letter, immersion in geography. we are in the American South, and we are not in any American South. We are in the center of some of the most significant regions in the history of American South, and also in the definition and fight for democracy in this country, and for justice. So how to be here and be cognizant and be present of the implication and the relevance of that particular historical sighting, that particular historical belonging for geographical and events definition. So this become a very important part of how to develop the structure of the engine. And since we're going to be online, they are practical things that come to the table. We are not paying somebody thousands of dollars to come from Europe to America, hosted for a number of days. So we are how to realign all those funds or resources to make this project accessible and visible, and to enrich a moment that needed. So instead of having a symposium in the ground, it was expanded in these webinars, which are 1 hour and a half, and then with an intervention that bring the conversation to the ground. As you know.
Oh, I was just going to say that we're going to post a link to the Engine for Art Democracy. So I'll check out the webinars, and there's been some really fantastic conversations about redefining monuments and paths for emerging solidarities, and one about love transmutation, and then to what you were saying, that it's also accompanied by these incredible artistic interventions. And this is a piece that's currently on view. Isn't that right, Magda?
This is currently in view at the Fisk University, one of the historical Black universities and college of United States in Nashville. And this particular building that is the repository of Mahama intervention is called the Little Theater. And the Little Theater was a civil, it was a barrack, a military barrack in the Civil War. And then later it became a small hospital for the army. And then when slavery ended, it became the very first place in which free enslaved people and their families came for instruction. So this is the first educational building in which African Americans in this region have access to education. So they are incredible reasons and package of information, word and way to highlight this particular building.
Yeah. And there was students were collaborating on this piece too, isn't that
so
right?
You know, we are in quarantine, so we cannot put 20 people together.
Yeah.
So what we did, we create hours, you know, like a signing hour. So this is Professor Alicia Henry from Fisk University to the left, and one of her students working in the project in the ground of Fisk. We have other times in which people are sewing in the ground of Vanderbilt, and then we have other time that people were sewing in a communal place in the area of North Nashville called the Magruder community, and it's an entire collective of that help immigrants and women, and a very important community liaison in the area. So this project, this touching, this sewing and mending of these jute sacks brought together a very broadened range of individuals from Nashville, from many different ways of life. We have curators, museum directors, doctors, I mean, neighbors sewing one at a time in this time. And the level of engagement and the level of reaction that this brought to the community is a beautiful testimony of the life that we could build together when we really put attention to this topic that we discussed in the fall, love transmutations. How could we?
Yes, I love the love transformation.
But transmutation is an indication too about transformation, and this is important. Here you have in the conversation Samar Ali is a diplomatic, a mediator, a lawyer, and a intern. She was at the White House of Obama administration. Susan Edwards is the director of a museum. T.C. Harvest is an anthropologist. Edward Fisher is the chairman of the Latin American Studies and anthropologist as well at Vanderbilt. Jamashid is an artist and the director of the gallery. So law, anthropology, museum, medicine, all together to talk about, you know, what is this? The title Living in Commons in the Precarious South is coming out of the curator Marina Fokiris, who have her magazine is called Live. Her magazine, I forgot the title of her magazine. I just said it a minute ago. But sorry, escaped my mind for a minute.
I'll come back.
I will come back, but it's about the South, no? And this is something that, again, we want to return to this idea that the South is not an isolated definition. South as a state of mind is the name of her magazine. And then this is about a condition of the South that is not only geography, but it's a condition of culture, it's a condition of the mind, it's a condition maybe of habits, economies, all kind of different things, maybe political, maybe destiny, many things. So for me, the argument too is what we mean and how could we achieve this idea of living in common in the precarious South, what it requires from us, and what is in the South worth of attention, worth of learning, of consideration, after we have been for such long time of period focusing always in the North. You know, as I say, the North always was the door to prosperity. The North always was the aspiration. But what is that all about? What we cannot make the South or understand what is that happening in the South that require for us to really engage and create our ideal place or our site of destiny, and the interaction of that circularity in the global aspect of it.
Yeah, it's very inspiring work. And in this conversation, you talk a lot about your work with the Intermittent Rivers project that you did for the Havana
Matanzas.
For Matanzas, and which had been nicknamed the Biennial of Love, which was so beautiful. And I was really hoping that we would have time to speak about that project because you were kind of en route to that biennial when you were at Montalvo. But I'm a little bit aware of that our time is going by really quickly. So I'm going to ask for Nathan to post some links in the chat so that people can find out more about that biennial, because the project that you did, because it's really incredible. And it's sort of about, again, creating these kind of collaborative platforms, which is so much about what you do. It's sort of ways to use your to bring so many other voices to the table. And I think that was done so beautifully with the project in Matanzas.
Well, it would happen again in 2022. You all are invited. And we are working in several projects in different capacity, but the only thing that I could add to that, Donna, that I think that is valuable, is that it is something really magnificent when we dare to get to know each other. When we really, and I say this from my heart, when we really naked ourselves and risk ourselves to be vulnerable and maybe to be hurt, but also is the possibility to know and engage and figure out that the difference are so minimal, that even within the different resides our similarities and our need for collaboration and our capacity for survivors. If we don't collaborate, we will not survive.
That's right.
That's simple. So it's something about that. It's like a simple math about that I am trying to work from the conversation of the art and invite people to open your arm and your heart to others and risk yourself to get disappointed. Maybe your surprise is going to be incredible for how much enriched and beauty you're going to find, no?
Beautiful, inspirational words. So I'd love, Magda, now to ask you, we've kind of come to the moment where we want to talk a bit about your collaborative video project, When We Gather, which we're going to be sharing with people today. And that premiered earlier this year. And you kind of described it as emerging in response to the election of Kamala Harris as vice president, and a kind of acknowledgement of these generations of women who throughout the nation's history who kind of made part the way for this moment. So would you be able to give us like a brief introduction to the film, and then we'll play the film, and then we'll have Kelly come back and we'll have some Q&A about the
Well, I think that, in the year of shocking events and in the year of being in solitude and, structuring your ideas and you're making alone, the election was another moment of incredible reckoning, and as well was all the event of social awareness that took place, the bad event that took place, the breaking heart events, and also the awakening, and all this social vivid kind of solidarity and collaboration that show us the beauty of our common humanity, from every part of the world. So it was almost like this circularity that we are trying to find in the South. And I did a number of many work about everything that happened in that period, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all the other individuals whose lives were taken. And I was trying to really think about how do I hold hope? So really, when we gather, surprised me. When we gathered, I dream it. I have a dream about a performance in the city of Washington that were all women, and the women were circling, going around in circularity around the White House. And all these women were saying, "We're going to the People House." I would hear in my dream Spanish, "¿A dónde vamos?" To the People House. ¿A dónde vamos? To the People House. And it was something so intense and so vivid that I wake in the morning and I call the artist that I was seeing, and I say, "Guys, I dreamed that we were doing this performance and you need to say yes." This is Opio Pakawasili in New York and Latasha Diggs, who Latasha Diggs have worked with me, and we have worked together in many scenes. Okui was kind of more new, but I saw it then. And when I told them what I was seeing in the dream, because I have this crystal clear image that I still have now of what it was, including clothing and all kind of scenes. And I drew all of that. So I always drew my dreams. So I drew everything. And before I call this girl and say, "Look, and they say, "Oh yes, we need to do that." So, but how? And then we start thinking, and then I called when we talked for a long time. And when we finished talking, I say, "I'm going to call my gallery." I call Wendy Norrie and say, "Wendy, I have this dream, and I have these two artists are ready to do this with me." We were trying to make the real performance in Washington. The idea was to go to Washington. We started thinking about how we fly there, where we are staying, how we made scenes with the clothing that is 6 feet apart. So, in that space that we could do that and get this. I have never seen Washington that I remember in a bird view. I don't remember having a vision of Washington City, of the White House in a bird view, except in that dream. And it was really kind of incredible, because where that come from, no? And yes, very, very, very interesting. And the kind of ritualistic quality of that. So the idea that come to me was in this scene was, okay, we need to make this as a cleansing ritual for the energies that had been negative and they had been affecting us. And we need to give this opportunity to these women to have a clean house, no? So the idea was, we were thinking bringing bronze.
That was very needed.
And, yes, and my hair was with them. We wanted to make a colonia, a perfume. I still want to do that. A perfume to give Washington a new aroma, and all of that. And so when I started talking with Wendy, they say, well, I don't know if you guys could really go to Washington and whatever. So they moved from going to Washington to how do we do something that is not going to Washington, but it bring the idea. So from the beginning, it was a participatory, multi-voices piece that would put together the versatility and the difference of all what women, not only in the country, we were thinking really in the war. We wanted to have solidarity gathering in different parts of the world and put it together for that. And the project got esteemed very quickly. Wendy Norrie, which is very capable and have producing before, put a team of producers. We interviewed numerous filmmakers. When it was presented, the idea of wanting to work with us. And we ended choosing Cody Olivier, who is amazing. And the three of us, when Okwio Paka Wasili and Latasha, they saw the different samples the other filmmakers were sending, each one of us separately choose Cody. So we say, that's it, because, you know, this is, and we did the film in a very marathon time, and in a speed of time, I don't remember now, so it was that we filmed for a week, and in a week we visited 7 cities with an entire crew of around 30 people around, because we needed to do this in location. I wanted specific signifiers for the piece of proximity to water, proximity to historical something, and COVID, no? How we do this without getting ill. So I remember telling the ladies, we are not going to get ill. We're going to do this, and we're going to, which was a miracle. All of us get out for the first time with the crew to the different sites. So the artists, they are 7 artists: Lisa, Samita, Okwi, Latasha, Dale, and Diana. And all of them are in different cities: New York, Houston, Massachusetts, Boston, Los Angeles. We couldn't enter Los Angeles. So the artist that we choose from Los Angeles, we needed to cut it out, which of course was disappointed for her, but we couldn't go there to film. And we wanted to keep a very clear idea for that. It was a really a beautiful compacting in 5 minutes an idea that we were thinking that was 3 hours, or what idea was to perform from 9 to 12 in Washington and gathering that energy. But I think that in a succinct way, put together the desire and the aspiration to send a message of we have the opportunity for a new beginning. We have the opportunity to celebrate this moment, which is a moment that condenses the fight and the aspiration and the struggle of so many generations of women. And what that we want to do is to tell women, yes, it's possible. We could do it. This is a moment like no another in history. And, I was seeing a few days ago a conversation of Joe Biden in Congress, and Kamala and Nancy are behind him. And I was saying to myself, I was with my son, and I said to him, look at that. First time, these 2 women are behind. These are the second and third in line of power. This is beautiful. This is meaningful. This is about justice and democracy, and celebrated the extraordinary work that women do generating life. I want to use that as a metaphor, giving life, generating and sustaining life in whatever way you want to take that. Women do magnificently. And I wanted to emphasize that.
That's very exciting, Magda. So I'm really thrilled that we're going to be able to share this now with everyone. And so I'm going to play the film now, and then we'll come back and we'll have some questions from our audience with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Magda.
Thank you.
Maybe for when we gather.
Gathering the bows, strings of gold down our necks, borderless, gather.
Maybe the red stitch was broken in the quilt. Spiraling in storm-feathered stars, she hard-pressed herself to finish. Toil the hair, the conjure of twirls didn't work, hiding prayer knots. Whispers always weaved these roads in quite the same fashion. A delicate skip, hop, while the threads mean to open portals. Imagine necessary white ribbons onto ponytails, later adjusted with bangs. All this work to show we all equal before many routes. Still, we gotta have our moment. Maybe the suitcase and yellowed plastic bags upcycled did not burst at seams. Maybe she good girl, please watch over her. Pinned to jacket was a prayer for us all. Didn't work for less, but might have. We had little and dreamt labyrinths, buckled dress shoes, quite the shiny marvel, black, saffron socks, ankle and ruffled. A chorus chartered to school. Imagine necessary a soup of new brown playmates. Did we understand that? Little girls, this work we knew little about was work. Only a child in a stitch of American moments. Maybe the charter was opposed, gathered from blind complaints, made wards with treaties. She hardened, hardly an understatement. A teacher's cruel ruler, how proper speech didn't work nor kill, tamed not. She remembers blood and clan, remembers her ocean, woodlands, quite the opposite. So make way, fighters, grand calabash matriarchs, imagining necessary glory in tongues. The whistling air speaks. The house needs cleaning. This work that sullied means more work. Thus, whisper gingerly, like cedar, like pine, on all moments.
Gathering the cloth for skirts and locks, we mend our socks, unbind the clock, we gather. Gathering the bows, strings of gold down our necks, borderless, gather. Gathering the rings, those perfect dreams, gather your cradle boards, gather. The what and how to hold on. Work against the chill. The what and how to keep strong. Gather in the cloth for skirts and locks. We mend our socks, unbind the clock. We gather, gather.
Wow. How amazing, Magda.
I remember that, this little drawing that is in the end.
Yeah.
This is one of the drawing trying to show what it's all about.
Wow, so that's so inspiring and just beautiful. And I love the line of only a child in a stitch of American moments is so powerful, and this idea of family and ancestors and being kind of tied together with this thread and this strand that you see that in some of your other work, don't you? That's like a reoccurring.
Correct. So I as when we were just turning the project into film, so I was thinking about how to make this idea of circularity. So Okuyo Pakawasili, in her role as a performer and dancer, kind of structure this idea of aspiring. We are always moving counterclockwise because that's what we were doing in the circle of the, but we don't have a building now to be around. So how do we indicate this circularity and the idea of continuing, that is continuing, that this movement and this line doesn't stop. So we are creating, the idea of a clock. So the clock is 9639. And we are moving from 3 to 12 to 9 to 6, 3 to 12, 9 to 6. And we are literally following that. So if somebody's in Houston and she's going to stop moving at 12, and the person that is in California is going to start moving at 9, and then I am starting at 6, and the other, and that made this convention of space. So that was very important, as well as the poetry. The entire poem of the piece is written by Latasha Diggs. And Latasha Diggs we met in 1991 I believe there was a conference of something at NYU, and we were conveying both by Jane Cortez, this incredible American poet. So I always had been fascinated with Ladiga capacity for verbalizing. So we have intense, soon conversation, because we were in all different cities, going through the text, to the sound. In my dream of the piece, the woman body word instrument. So everybody was like, when she used this calabash, this big instrument, everybody was a vessel with sound. And we were trying to bring that into these voices. So Samita and Lisa creating all this layer, and Okui as well, because his voice is there for these different voices. So the same with the spiral. So there is a very good emphasis when Jana, who is both European and Native American, built this spiral around her body. Very specific attentions to details that together could bring something harmonious. So you both are invited to do your own gathering and use your own ritual and all your own circularity and put it into the website. So you go to When We Gather a website, there are instructions to create your own ritual and get together and make this cleansing, this energy. I remember Okui saying she was not happy completely because she wanted to see all spiraling like a tornado, get the steam of a tornado, because a tornado take away at the same time. It's tragic, but at the same time it's liberated. It take away everything and clean the air in its totality. So thank you for showing that piece. And it's my hope that the piece would have a continuum for more than 3 minutes. So as soon as I am ready to come back to a studio, and I planning to continue with the When We Gather. So it would be When We Gather, minute 5 to 10 maybe, and then little by little we're going to get to 30 minute film.
Exciting. Yeah, very thrilled to see this work. So Kelly, thanks for rejoining us. And I'm wondering if we have some questions from the audience to share with Magda, and also just your response to.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this. I remember in February, I think when it first came out, what an incredible and what an incredibly uplifting project this was. At that moment, as we, we're all heading into a year of being home and sort of dealing with just this constant bombardment of unrest, and it was so hopeful. And in many ways, it was the depiction of this project you have at Vanderbilt with the engine, right? For art, democracy, and justice. Magda, your force, there's a comment from our audience that somebody said, I'm in awe of you and how you remove boundaries and limitations with your imagination to think creatively and remove clogging, the clogging, right? And we could all learn from that. And I just can't agree more. I mean, we're all trying to understand how to gather, how to come back. We're excited to be together, but we also have to be careful that we don't come back and just make a point of perpetuating what has been, because we've learned so much in this last year.
That's very important. That's very important. Couldn't agree more with you. That's very important.
There's one new message, which is a big thank you to you from Hugh. I don't know that I have questions. We're sort of at our time. I could talk to you for hours. I want to know more about.
I know.
Don't worry, I'm coming back to Montalvo.
We're going to get you back to Montalvo, because exactly what you said in the beginning, we like to hold our people close. We like to keep expanding that, weaving, but pulling people back, because it's too important. Thank you, Magda.
Yes, thank you, Magda. I think we can let's post in the chat, Nathan. We have some links for some upcoming projects. You're preparing for a retrospective exhibition for the 13th edition of the African Biennial of Photography. So we can post about that.
Oh, yes. I just, that's beautiful. I am so excited about that in Bamako.
Yeah. And also the Uncovered Spaces show at the International Museum of Arts and Sciences is in 2022.
Yes.
And your work is
sitting idle.
No, Magda is just a force. And then work on currently on view. You've got your piece in the Promised Witness and Remembrance exhibition at the Speed Art Gallery in Louisville, and Eye to Eye self-portraits at the National Portrait Gallery. So we'll just post some links so people can check about that work. And Magda, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you, you both. And thank you for the work that you guys do to sustain and to support artists and communities. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I also want to say
what our community is doing out there. It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. And to get to Wendy Norris's gallery if you're in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I want to say
especially got to see that show in person. It's incredible, those works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to Wendy Norris and her team at Wendy Norris Gallery, especially Rachel Trout, and also Andrea Yu Cheng Chung, the producer on When We Gather, for all their support in with this program. And we really appreciate you. We are including a link in the chat for anyone who would like to register for a special 35-minute behind-the-scenes special about When We Gather that's hosted by Dr. Nikki Green of Wellesley College, and that contextualizes the film and has interviews with the participants and performers. And that special will be available for participants today for a week until May 13th. So
I highly recommend it.
Yes, it's excellent.
It's terrific. Right. Until
thank you so much, you both.
Thank you, Magda.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye for now. And Kelly, in the meantime, if we say goodbye to Magda, maybe you can tell us what we have coming up for Scratch.
I'd love to, Donna. On May the 20th, For our next Scratch Space, we'll be joined by culinary artist, chef, and journalist Andrea Blum, with visual artist Keisha Lucas for a conversation about their work on a new cookbook project they began several years ago at Montalvo on foraging and sustainable food practices. Andrea and Keisha first met in 2015 in the Lucas Artist Program, and they were each working on solo projects. Keisha was working on a project called Smolder, a body of work documenting the charred aftermath of the California wildfires. And Andrea was working on Biofabric, a series of decorative textiles that she grew from yeasts and bacteria with colored natural dyes. We'll talk about both of their individual practices, artistic collaborations, and culinary creativity, and how foraging can help us cultivate a more intimate relationship with our environment and encountering with other living things. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Kelly. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks. See you sooner.
I know.